Welcome to the AQA November 2012 non-calculator paper. I shall do my best to explain it to you. Two formulas on the paper: area of trapezium might be useful. It's half the sum of the parallel sides multiplied by the perpendicular height, the height straight up. The volume of a prism, area of cross-section, times the length. The prism shape is like a loaf of bread, it's the same shape all the way through. On to the first question about coordinates. You need to remember alphabetical order. We've got x, then y. So x, then y. So we've got how far across and how far up. Write down the coordinates of A. So we've got across 1 and up 6, 1, 6. Mark the midpoint of BC. Midpoint, that's the middle of the line joining B and C. So there's B, there's C. The midpoint, I've marked it with a cross. Work out the perimeter of the rectangle. The perimeter is the distance around the outside of the shape. So I've got, I nearly wrote 4, but that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 5, 4, so it's going to be 5, add 4, add 5, add 4. 5 and 5 is 10, 4 and 4 is 8, that's 18 centimetres. Expression done. Next question. Work out the following. So in this question we've got add, minus, times and divide. Standard bits of maths. So I'm going to do them the traditional way. 184 plus 139. 4 add 9 is 13. Put 3 down, carry the 1. 8 add 3 is 11. Add 1 is 12. 1 add 1 add 1 is 3. Next question. 362. Take away 207. 2 take away 7. Can't do it. So we need to borrow from the 6. Change that to 5. Carry the 1. 12 take away 7 is 5. 5 take away 0 is 5. And 3 take away 2 is 1. Whatever you do at the beginning, don't decide that you're going to do 7 take away 2. Next question. 8 times 65. 65 times 8. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 6 is 48. Add 4, which is 52. If you needed to write your 8 times table down, write your 8 times table down. Help you along the way. 2D, 138 divided by 6. 138 divided by 6. 6 is into 1, don't go. Carry the 1. 6 is into 13, go twice. 1 left over. 6 is into 18, go 3. So the answer is 23. Next question. Excuse me. Work out the 2 missing values in this shopping bill. 4 donuts at 60p each, that's £2.40. 3 coffees at, we don't know how much, we don't know how much the total is, but we do know the total of the whole lot is £6. So we need to fill in anything in the table that we can to start off with. Now, if the total was £6 and the donuts cost £2.40, then the missing amount for the coffees must be £6 take away £2.40. Now you may be able to do that in your head by counting up. If I was counting up from £2.40, then I could add on 60, that would give me £3, and then I could add on £3, and that would give me £6. So in total, that would be £3, add the 60p. So it's definitely going to be £3.60. If you did it the old way, traditional way, 0 take away 0 is 0. 0 take away 4, can't do it. Borrow from the 6, that's 5. 10 take away 4 is 6. 5 take away 2 is 3. And I've got £3.60. So I've found out that missing amount. And we need to work out the missing value as well. Now £3.60 is for 3 copies. So the calculation I need to do is going to be £3.60 divided by 3. 3's into 3 go 1. Don't forget the decimal points. 3's into 6 go 2. 3's into 0 go 0. So that must have been £1.20. All this is in money, so I'll make sure that I put in some pound signs. And I'll stand back, look at the answer, and make sure that it makes sense. One copy is £1.20. That's a reasonable amount of money. On to the next question. Okay, we've got temperature, so let's look at the thermometer we've got here. -5, 0 and 5. Just to check the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, it does go up in ones. They want this amount here. So that's going downwards, that's below 0. So that's going to be 1 below 0. So that's -1 degrees C. Now for this other scale, and this scale is a little bit different, you might think it goes up in tens, but if I check that, you've got 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, that's not right. Perhaps it goes up in 20s. 100, 120, 140, 160, 180, that's not right. There is a halfway mark, so we know that must be 150. And halfway to halfway must be half of the 50, so that must be 125. So if it goes up in 25s, you've got 100, 125, 150, 175 and 200. So it must be 175 grams. If you're using a scale, make sure you count round your scale so it makes sense at the next value. Next question on shapes. Match each net with a solid. So these are folded out shapes. If you fold them up, they will make a solid shape. Now it's useful, I think, to decide where the base of the shape will be. So if I imagine in this shape here that there is the base, then I can fold up these 4 faces to make the sides of a box, and then the top of the box will be this shape over here, this square here. Now they're all squares, so we can see that that would make a cube. The next shape, I'm going to choose that as the base. I'll fold up those 4 faces. They'd all come to a point at the top, and that shape is a pyramid. In fact, it's a square-based pyramid. You could get a triangular-based pyramid, also known as a tetrahedron. The next shape, I'll pick there as the base. Fold up those 4 faces to make the sides. So I've got a box type shape. I've got the top of the box is going to be that bit when it folds across. They are not square faces, they're rectangular faces. So it's like a cube, and it's known as a cuboid. Finally, the shape at the bottom, if I make that the base, I'm going to fold up that triangle at the end, that triangle at the other end, and then these 2 rectangles will fold over the top to make the Toblerone type shape, and that means that this shape is a triangular prism. It's a triangle throughout its shape. Question 6. Okay, question 6. We've got a handling data question. It's always worth reading the question and trying to understand the graph that's given. It says Alison records how many men and women attend her fitness class over 4 weeks. The bar chart shows information for weeks 1, 2 and 3. So we've got week 1, and then looking at the key, we've got men in white and women in grey. So in week 1 I can see that there are 10 men and there are 15 women. In week 2, 12 men and 16 women. In week 3, 15 men and 20 women. So now I understand the graph, what's going on, I can answer the question, how many men attended in week 2? So the men, this is the men, in white, that is week 2, and if I read across, I can see that it's 2 little squares up, and that's there, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, it must be 12. How many people attended in week 3 altogether? Well, we've got the men, it's week 3 now, the men, there are 15, and we've got the women, 20, so 15 add 20, which comes to 35. Quick check, 12 and 35 in a fitness class, yeah, they're reasonable numbers. 6C. 40 people attended the class in week 4. There were 8 more women than men. Complete the bar chart for week 4. Okay, so 40 people attended. If there were the same number of each, women and men, there would be 20 of each. If the numbers weren't equal, then we could have 19 and 21. We could have 18 and 22. The total is still 40. We could have 17 and 23. Now it says there were 8 more women than men. At the moment, I've got 17 and 23, so that's got a difference of 6. So if I went one more, I could have 18 and 24, and that has got a difference of, well, 24 take away 16 is 8, so we're looking at 16 and 24, so I would need to do bars of 16 for the men and 24 for the women. 60. Each week, Alison pays out £30 to run the class. She charges each person £5 to attend. How much profit did she make in week 1? So we need to work out how many people attended in week 1. So if I go back to the graph, in week 1 there were 10 men and 15 women. So week 1, 10 men, 15 women, total 10 plus 15 equals 25. Now that means that her income, the amount of money coming in, is going to be 25 times 5. And 25 times 5 I can times by 10 and then divide by 2. Or I could do the traditional way, 25 times 5, 5 times 5, 25, 5 times 2 is 10. So I can get the answer 125. So that's the amount of money coming in. And Alison pays out £30 to run the class, so we're asked for her profit, so her profit is going to equal 125, take away 30, and I could write it out again like this, 125, take away 30, 5 take away 0 is 5, 2 take away 3, can't do it, 12 take away 3 is 9, so that's 95, so the profit is £95. On to question 6. Sorry, that's the one we've just done. I should remember that I should have gone back to the bar chart and filled in week 4. Question 7. A number machine. We've got an input and an output. This is what goes in, this is what comes out. There are 2 things going on. We've got divide by 5 and take away 2. So, first of all, 25 goes in, divide by 5, so 25 divided by 5 is 5, subtract 2, 5 take away 2 is 3, so the output and the input of 25 is 3. We've got the same number machine, and we need to work out the input when the output is 8. Now I could try numbers in the left hand side, but if you think about it, if I run through backwards and do the opposites, the opposite of take away 2 would have been add 2. Now 8 add 2 is 10, and the opposite of divide by 5 is multiply by 5. So I've got 10 at the moment. If I multiply by 5, I get 50. So the number going in must have been 50. We'll just quickly check. 50 divided by 5 is 10. 10 take away 2 is 8. Next question. Here are 8 coins. You've got a 50, 20, a 20, a 10, a 5, a 2, a 2 and a 1. Ben and Yusuf take 4 coins each. They both have exactly the same amount of money. Which coins could they each have? Now, if they've got the same amount of money each, then if we add up the total and divide it by 2, we then know how much money each of them got. So that's my first job. I need to add up the total. Total 50, add 20, add 20, add 10, add 5, add 2, add 2, add 1. 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, £1, £1 5, £1 7, £1 9, £2. So the total is £2. So each of them must have £2 divided by 2, which is £1. This looks like my first mistake of the paper. I shall add up my numbers again because I've looked at it and thought that makes no sense whatsoever. So if I add them up, I've got 50, 20, 20 and 10, that's £1, £1 5, £1 7, £1 9, £1 10. I should have written £1 10. Obviously a deliberate error, just to test you. That means that each of them must have £1 10 divided by 2, which is 55p. So Ben could have the 50p and the 5p. So that means that Yusuf would have all the rest, which is 20p, add 20p, add 10p, add 2p, add 2p, add 1p. Quick check. Ben 50 and 5, 55. Yusuf 20, 20 and 10, 50, 2, 4, 5. So they both come to 55p. There will be other ways of doing it, but we're only asked for one way of doing it. On to question 9. What percentage of this shape is shaded? Well, a percentage is a type of fraction except out of 100. You can see that percent, that sign has in it a divide and it has the 2 zeros from 100. So first of all I'm going to turn it into a fraction. There are 3 which are shaded out of 5. And 3/5 can be changed into a fraction out of 100. If I multiply top and bottom by 10, I would have 30 out of 50. If I multiply top and bottom by 2, I'll get 60 over 100, and 60 over 100 is 60%, gives this out of 100. 9b. Circle two fractions that are equivalent to 4/5. Well, fractions, just like in the one above, I multiplied top and bottom by the same number each time. Firstly, it was multiply top and bottom by 10, then it was multiply top and bottom by 2. The opposite of that would be dividing top and bottom by the same number. So, 2/10, I can see that 2 and 10 are both in the 2 times table, so I could cancel those down by dividing top and bottom by 2 to get 1/5. 6 and 8, well 2 goes into 6 and 8, so if I divide top and bottom by 2, I would get 3/4. 8/10, if I divide top and bottom by 2, 8 divided by 2 is 4, then 10 divided by 2 is 5. 20 and 25 are both in the 5 times table. 5s into 20 go 4, 5s into 25 go 5. And finally 8 and 9, well, there aren't any numbers which go into both 8 and 9, so that's the best we can do. Leave it as 8/9. So we can see that there are two fractions there, which are equivalent to 4/5. There's the 8/10 and then 20/25. 9c, 40% of 70. Well, with percentages, remember to work out 10%, we need to divide by 10. To work out 1%, we need to divide by 100. So, in this question, I can find 10%, because that's going to be 70 divided by 10, which is 7. And then, if I want 40%, well, it's going to be 4 lots of 10%. So that will be 4 lots of 7, which is 28. So my answer, 28. There's no pound signs, it's just numbers. Does that look sensible? Well, 50% of 70 would be half of 70. That would be 35. So yeah, 28 does look reasonable. Also notice that 4 times 7 is 28. That's a good test for doing percentages, just multiplying together the digits. Question 10. You can see that question 10 has a star by it, so they're testing our quality of written communication. This means that we need to make doubly sure we write down all our work and we put some words down to explain what we're doing. Okay, let's read the question and see if it makes sense. Harry is paid £800 per month. These amounts are taken off his pay. 1/10 of his pay for national insurance. 1/5 of his pay for tax. How much money does he have left each month? So I'll need to work out his national insurance. So national insurance equals 1/10 of £800. And to calculate that, I'm going to do 800 divided by 10. If I want to find 1/10, I'll divide by 10. If I want to find 100, like in percentages, I'll divide by 100. So 800 divided by 10, if I'm dividing by 10, I can just take a 0 off the end or move the decimal point one place to the left. In this case, there's a 0 to be taken off. So we've got the national insurance is £80. Next we've got his tax, and the tax is 1/5 of 800. So 1/5 of 800, well, we've just found out 1/10 by dividing by 10, 1/5 we will need to divide by 5. So 800 divided by 5. Now the observant amongst us will notice that 800 divided by 5 has a link to 800 divided by 10, that it must be double 1/10. So I can straight away write down that that's going to be 160. But if I didn't notice that, then I could do some working. 800, 5s into 800, 5s into 8 go once, there's 3 left over, 5s into 30 goes 6, 5s into 0 go 0, so I've got my 160 that way. How much money does he have left each month? Well, we've got the amount which is going out, the national insurance and the tax, so the amount left is going to equal 800, take away 160, take away 80, and 800, take away 100 would give me 700, take away 60 will give me 640, take away 80 will give me 560. I could write out my working. 800 take away 160, 0 take away 0 is 0, 0 take away 6 I can't do it, borrow from the 8, 10 take away 6 is 4, 7 take away 1 is 6. I've taken off 160, now take off the 80, 640 take away the 80, 0 take away 0 is 0, 4 take away 8 I can't do it, 14 take away 8, well that is 6, and 5 take away nothing, it's 5, and I can get my answer that way, 560. On to question 11, simplify fully. So we've got 7 lots of A plus 3 lots of A, take away 4 lots of A. Well, 7 lots of A, add 3 lots of A, will be 10 lots of A. Take away 4 lots of A, must give me 6 lots of A. Simplify fully. Well, they're all multiplications, and when you've got algebra, you don't need to write the multiply signs in. We're going to put the numbers together, so 3 times 2. And then we've got the m times the p. So I can just write m and p with nothing in between. 3 times 2 is 6. So we've got 6mp. So put the numbers at the front, multiply those together, and put the letters afterwards. Question 12. Fence sections are 5 feet or 8 feet long. 5 foot and 8 feet. The side of a garden is 36 feet long. How many of each section are needed to fence the side without cutting any of the sections? You must show your working. So there are 3 marks. We need to write down some working for it. Well, let's think about the numbers we can get by putting together 5-foot sections. We could have 5 feet, or 2 of them would make 10 feet, or 3 of them would make 15 feet, or 4 of them would make 20 feet, or 5 of them would make 25 feet. But we're not going to make it to 36 feet. If we took the 8s, we could make 8, 16, 24, or 32. Now by putting those numbers together in some combination, we should be able to end up with 36 feet. And I can see that 16 and 20 come to 36. And from my working I can see that that must be 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 5 feet sections, and it must be 2 of the 8 feet sections. We'll just check back. 4 times 5 is 20, 2 times 8 is 16, add them together they come to 36. So it was important to be organised and writing out your working clearly so you could use it. Question 13. graph shows the midday temperatures in a seaside town for a week. We've got temperature over here, we've got days along the bottom. We can see that the scale goes from 0, it makes a jump up to 12, that's why there's that little squiggle, and then it goes up in 2s. So what is the range? Well, we need to remember that range equals the biggest take away the smallest. And these are all midday temperatures. So what the range of midday temperatures? Well, the highest is that one and the lowest is that one. So the range is going to equal, I'll read off, that comes over to 22, so it's going to be 22, and the lowest is 14, so 22 take away 14, and 22 take away 14 is 8. Question 14. Work out the value of 4x add 3y when x equals -2 and y equals 5. Well, this is a substitution, so we're going to be putting the numbers in place of the letters. So 2 marks, so we need to put some working down. And I can see that it says 4 lots of x, so that's 4 lots of -2, plus 3 lots of y, and y is 5. So 4 times -2 is -8, 3 times 5 is 15. So I've got -8, add 15, or if I turn it around the other way, 15, take away 8, which is 7. Next question, we've got 2 sets of brackets. So we need to take the thing on the outside and multiply by each of the things on the inside. And the common mistake here would be about this negative in the middle. Now that's a -2. So that -2 needs to be multiplied by x, and it needs to be multiplied by the -1. So the first set of brackets, we will get 5x, take away 5 times 3, which is take away 15. And then the second set, -2 times x, and -2 times -1. Now 2 times 1 is 2. And we've got a negative multiplied by a negative, which means that we've got add. Now do some tidying up. I can put the terms in x together. 5x take away 2x, which is 3x. And -15 add 2. Well, if I'm at -15 and I go up 2, I'll be at -13. So the answer, 3x -13. Question 16. The school science department has 13 teachers. The stem and leaf diagram shows their ages. There's a key here to help us. 2, 4 represents 24 years old. So if I took that 7 is 2, 7. That represents 27 years old. So we've got a 23-year-old, a 27-year-old, 32, 32, 36, 38, and so on. How many teachers are over 50 years old? Well, that would be, this person here is 49, and then we've got 51, 55, 58, 59, and 63. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teachers over 50 years old. Now, the median age, I need to put them in order and pick the middle. So there are 13 teachers, so I could arrange them into a group of 6, another group of 6, and then there would be one of them in the middle. So that means the 7th person would be the median. So I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 46 years. Alternatively, I could take the smallest and the biggest, cross them out, the next smallest, the next biggest, cross them out, keep on working my way, smallest and biggest, and eventually I'd end up with 46, and that person is the median. Final question. The oldest teacher retires. She is replaced by a new teacher aged 22. So that new teacher would appear in the 20s, 22, so there would be someone else who would appear in there. Work out the new median age. Well, the oldest person has disappeared, so the order all goes down one, which means that the middle is not 46, it's now going to be 38. So the median is now 38. Question 17, parallel lines. Now I always think of parallel lines, if the angles look the same, then they probably are the same. Looking at the diagram, I can see that I've got 64 and x. Now if I made that 64 smaller, that x would get smaller. If I made the 64 bigger, that x would get bigger. So 64 and x, vertically opposite, are the same. So write down the size of angle x, well x is 64. I'll write that on the diagram as well, might be useful later. Work out the size of angle y. Well, we've got these two angles look the same. They make an F shape, and if they make an F shape, they are the same, and they're known as corresponding. So x and z correspond. So z is 64 degrees. I'll write that down in my working. And then, because I've got a straight line, and the angles along a straight line add up to 180 degrees, I can then work out y, because it's going to be 180 take away 64. And 180 take away 64 is, well, I could be safe and do a little bit of working. 180. Would help if I wrote 180, not 184. 180 take away 64. So 0 take away 4, can't do it. Or from the 8. 10 take away 4 is 6. 7 take away 6 is 1 and 1. So I've got 116 degrees. It's worth checking back. 116 add 4 is 120, add the 60 would be 180. Yes, that works. I don't want to make a mistake with arithmetic. So 17c. Choose the correct word from the list to complete the sentence. Now we've got opposite. Well, 64 and x were opposite. We've got alternate, and alternate means this angle here and that angle there. These two angles are alternate. Corresponding is what I was talking about just now, and in pink I've got that angle there and that angle there. They correspond. And interior, that means they're on the inside, so this angle here and this angle here are interior or allied angles. They will add up to 180 degrees. So angle x and z, well, angle x and z, they correspond. So the word we need is corresponding. Next question. Okay, we've got shapes A and B. We've got a set of axes. It says describe fully the single transformation that maps shape A to shape B. Now with transformations, we've got various choices. We could be talking about a rotation, where the shape has rotated, it's turned. We could be looking at enlargement, where the shape has got bigger. We could be looking at a reflection, where we would have a mirror line. or we could be looking at the translation. And the translation just means that the shape has moved. So with each of these, as a little bit of revision, a rotation, we would need an angle and a centre, and whether it was clockwise or anti-clockwise. With enlargement, we'd need a scale factor, what it's been multiplied by, and a centre. And with a reflection, we'd need a mirror line. And with a translation, we need to know how far in the x direction and how far in the y direction the shape has moved. And we'd normally write that inside a vector. So in this one, you can see that the shape A has moved to shape B. Shape A has moved to shape B. And I can see that the shape has not got bigger, it's not rotated, it's not reflected, it must have translated. And if I take that corner, the same corner on each shape, I can see that shape A has been moved by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to the right, and then it's moved down by 2. Now, you can see my translation says right and up. So describe fully the single transformation that shape A to shape B, and it's going to be a translation. And I need how far to the right, that's 7. And it's not moved up by 2, it's moved down by 2. So I'm going to make sure we know that it's down by putting a minus sign there. Okay, 18b. Draw the reflection of shape B in the line y equals minus 1. So the first thing is to know where line y equals minus 1 is. If I take a coordinate, it's made up of the x followed by the y, and this is telling me that y equals minus 1, so the y coordinate must always be minus 1. That means that the line must always have a y coordinate of minus 1, and the x coordinate could be anything, so I could be looking at 1 minus 1, or I could be looking at 2 minus 1, or I could be looking at 3 minus 1, or 4 minus 1, or minus 6 minus 1. You can see quite quickly that the line must go through minus 1 on the y-axis. Now we're interested in reflecting shape B. So here's my shape B. I could use tracing paper and fold the tracing paper over and see where it comes to. But it will remain the same distance away from the mirror line. Now at the moment it's 2 units away, so it must be still 2 units away. So this corner will go to that corner. This corner, 2 units away, 2 units away. This corner, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This corner, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the shape, I've missed out one corner, but I can now see where it goes. It's going to be in this position. I'll just check, have I finished? Does it tell me to label the shape? Where it says draw the reflection of shape B in the line y equals minus 1, so this is my reflected shape. Next question. Okay, so we've got a question with a couple of diagrams in. Let's see if we can understand what's going on. It says, in a game, players spin 2 wheels. The wheels are fair. That means that they've got an equal chance of landing on each number. The numbers are added to get the score. the wheels show a score of 4 add 8 equals 12. There's 4, there's 8, and they come together to give us 12. Now on the grid, they've encouraged us to use it. We've got wheel 1 and wheel 2. We could write down some of the totals. For instance, 1 and 8 is 9, and 1 and 8, or 8 and 1, that's the order. Wheel 1 and wheel 2 is 9. You can see that 7 and 2 would also give you 9. In fact, all the ones across the middle there would give us 9. 1 and 1, that would give us 2. 1 and 2, that would give us 3. 2 and 1, that would give us 3. And I think you can probably see that there's a pattern, and we could fill them all in. As so, and continue. And high scores look to be down in the corner down here. We've got 16, we've got 15 and 15, 14, 14, 14, 13, 13, 13. There's a 12 there, and it fits my pattern, that's good. 12, 12, 12. We could have a line of 11s and a line of 10s. Right, looking at it, the number which appears the most is the 9s. And as the numbers get smaller, they appear less. And as the numbers get bigger, they appear less. So let's just go on to see what they ask us. What is the most likely score? Well, it's the 9s. The 9s occurred the most. They were down in the diagonal. 19B, we've got a score of 2, 3, 15 or 16 wins a prize. Work out the probability of winning a prize. Okay, well, let's go back to our diagram. I've forgotten what the numbers were now, so I'll have to read them again. 2, 3, 15 or 16. Okay, so where are the 2s, 3s, 15s or 16s? I've got a 2, 3, 15s and 16s. Now they appear in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places. And this grid is 8 numbers by 8 numbers. So there must be 64 possible outcomes in the grid. So I can see that 6 of the outcomes out of 64 of them would lead me to win. So over the page, the probability of winning a prize is going to be 6 out of 64. I'm not quite done yet because I need to make sure that I cancel that fraction down. Is there a number which goes into top and bottom? Well, they're both even, so 2 must. So that's going to be 3 over 32. Quick check. Well, 3 is the only number that goes into the top, 3 does not go into 32, so the answer is 3 out of 32. Okay, nearly there, a couple of questions left. I seem to be very keen on this question. Okay, now for some algebra. The length of this rectangular tile is 6 times the width. So they've written that down. We've got x and 6x. We don't know what x is. The tiles are put together to make this shape. Okay, well this new shape is going to have x, 6x, x, 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 and 6x, and it would have a 6x in the middle. It says the perimeter of the new shape is 24. Now what is the perimeter of the new shape? Well, the perimeter is the distance around the outside. That line in the middle is tempting us to use that 6x, but that's not part of the perimeter. So I don't want that. 3 marks for the question. I need to write some working down. Well, the perimeter is going to equal 6x plus 6x plus, those are the 2 long sides, and then we've got 4 x's there. I'll write them down as x, add x, add x, add x. So the perimeter comes to 6x, 6x, that's 12x, 13, 14, 15, 16x. But the perimeter is also, we know, 24. So we can now take our expression and the 24 and form an equation. So that means that 16x must equal 24. And the numbers don't look that nice, but this is 16 times x, so if I divide by 16 I can get rid of it, so it's going to be 24 divided by 16. And if I think of this as a fraction, what number goes into top and bottom? Well, 2 does, so that would give me 12 over 8. 2 does again, that would give me 6 over 4. And 2 does again, which would give me 3 over 2. And 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. And I just need to check that I've answered the question. It says work out the width of one tile. Well, the width was the x. It says 6 times the width is the length. So yes, the width is 1.5, and we're done. Final question. ABC is a right-angled triangle. What do we know about triangles? Well, the angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. That's important. And what else can we do? We don't know about any sides being equal. So looking at the question, I'll just start working out anything that I can. Now, if I look at this right-angled triangle, I've noticed that the angles add up to 180. So the angle at D must be 180, take away 90, take away 50, which would mean that the angle at D is 40 degrees. And because there's a straight line, then I can use the fact of angles along a straight line adding up to 180. So the obtuse angle at D is going to be 180 take away 40, which is going to be 140. So I can write 140 on my diagram. Now I need to look at triangle BCD. And I've noticed in triangle BCD that 2 of those angles are marked with Y. That means they must both be the same. That means that the triangle I'm looking at, BCD, is isosceles. So that means that the Y, add the Y, must come to 40 degrees. Which means that 2y must be 40, which means that y must equal 20 degrees. So we've got y is 20 degrees. And we're finished. It wasn't too bad, was it?